Like the old times. All right. Good morning, everybody. Yeah. Welcome back, Randy. Oh, that actually, if you're following the videos, then Randy never left because Randy's still. We want to wish Randy safe travels. All right. So today's Daf Ayin Daled. It says Kedushin. So we left off yesterday. We got a little bit further down Ayin Daled Amud Aleph. Probably around 8 lines from the top. Amar Rav Nachman. So we touched upon this a little bit yesterday. It's more sort of just continues until we get to the next sugya, which will be the Mishnah. Three people are believed to say the status that this is the Bechor, and therefore if he's the Bechor, he should get Pishnayim. So Eluhay, and these are them. Chaya, a midwife, right, who, let's say they were twins, or children born, you could say this is the Bechor. Aviv, the father, the Imo, and the mother. So how so? So Chaya, the altar. So Chaya, as we saw yesterday, the midwife, as long as she's in the room or she's still facing the baby, right then, the altar, Ayin Daled Amud Aleph, then she's believed. Imo, Kol Shiva, is all 7 days prior to her bris milah, right? The father doesn't recognize yet, and the baby's with the mother. However, and Aviv Li'olam, and Aviv is after the bris milah forever, because the pasuk says Yakir, right? Kedikani Yakir Yakiredu Le'acher. Right, so it says over there that he should recognize, the father has the ability to go ahead and recognize and say, "This is my bechor." So therefore, a father has to say that this is my son, the bechor. And therefore, he also has the ability to say that this child of mine is ben grusha, right? I'm a Kohen, and therefore, his mother, I'm married to, divorcee, whatever, and therefore he's a chalal. So he has the ability to go ahead and basically say that his son is a chalal. However, in an aman, he does not have the nemanas to say that.
The pasuk is about the snua. He's got two sons.
Yeah. Where is it? It should be on the side. Is it the aleph not there? 1 second. Should be aleph if I can find the one pasuk. Oh, it's on the other side, right? It says Kias Bechor ben Asnua Yakil. It says Lo Al Pishnayim. Right, it's talking about the by Yerusha. Right.
That's specifically talking about a Bechor in the Yerusha.
Right. So he is the ability to say that this guy, he gets double portion and he does not. So he has that coverage.
Which is different than saying someone to Ben Grusha.
Well, that's why it's not like I'm arguing it, right? Chazis Kashrus, we'll soon touch on that today. Fine. And Abu Shal Haya Kari the Shtuki Beduki. So he said Shtuki is somebody who didn't know the mother, didn't know the father, and Abu Shal calls him the Beduki. In other words, from the word Baduk, go ahead and look into the matter to check out it. So my Beduki. So so now we find out who the mother is. Is the Kasher Nibalt, and then we question her. Okay, who is this? Who is the father? Namanas, and therefore she's believed. So come on, who is this like? Rabbi Gamliel. This is a machlekes which we spent several days on. This is a machlekes in the second paragraph of Ksubas. As Tanina, we learned over there, Chadazina, the Tanan Hayasu Muberes, if a single woman was Muberes, she was pregnant. Amr La Mativa Shulberzem. We say, what is the nature of this child? And Amr La, she tells me, right? It's from so and so, he's a Kohen, right? He's not a apostle, he's not a mamzer, his status is okay. Right? And she's believed. Rangamliel. Rabbi Gamliel over there says that she is Namanis. So she's already Namanis to say that the child is kosher. So to over here, she's Namanis to say that the child is kosher. So why are you teaching us this halacha again? Rabbi Shua says, no, we don't trust her over there. And Amr Rav Yidom Shmuel, halach Rabbi Gamliel. We said halach is like Rabbi Gamliel, so we already know the halach is like Rabbi Gamliel. So why do you got to tell me that we believe the mother as to who the nature of the father is or was, right? And therefore this child is Vaz Kasher. The Gemara says no. We need two sources. Chada lahach sheba, v'chada lahach shebita. One is to machshir her, and now she already has a chazak kashrus that she wasn't nivelis to someone who's possible. So therefore, she's believed legabe her, but maybe legabe the child she shouldn't be believed. So therefore, we have two cases that said no, we even believe the mother legabe the child. It works well according over there. It says even though we believe her that she was not made a zona, right? She, and nevertheless, that we passel the daughter, and therefore you need another source to say that her child. She's not believed legabe your child. But according to the opinion, it says, hey, if you believe her legabe her status, you should believe her also legabe her child. Then why do you need the second case? So the answer is no. So if that's the case, what does Abishal come to teach us? So the Abishal No, Avishal was actually more of a chiddush. Timi hasam havimino hasam the Rav Ksher Mesa. Over there, she was a pnuya. So who's no good next to her? So a relative, right? Someone who would make the child a mamzer, okay, or maybe a mamzer, right? A mamzer himself would also make the child a mamzer. But everybody else, the rove is kosher etzla. But in this case, but let's say over here, let's say that the woman was, let's say she was engaged, right? She was betrothed, and her husband was out of town, and therefore everybody, right, is rov psulum etzla, right? And therefore, maybe so someone else, she's an Ashes Isha, therefore the Vlad will be a mamzer. If she says, no, it was from the husband, while he was still here, so therefore, when in that cases, even in that case, she's believed. Right, even in that case, an Arusa would be believed to say, even though she shouldn't have been, right, with her husband, right, she was, right, they don't live together yet, nevertheless, she is menes to say that he was the father, and therefore, this Vlad is kosher. The halacha is like Abishol. As long as we ask the mother, and the mother says, "Hey, this child is legit," then we trust the mother. Fine. Zok the Gemara. So kol hasrin lobo b'kahal. Those who are usher to enter into the congregation, mutarim lavoi zebzeh. Are mutter to one another. Now, l'chayra, this is a continuation of the previous Mishnah. We're talking about a mamzer, and then a sufi, and a baduki, and the scene, and all those people who were forbidden to mingle, to marry into the kahal. So those who are usher to marry into the kahal, those are mutter to each other. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Rabbi Yehuda says no, still not allowed. We have to understand who that is referring to. And Rabbi Yezer no. Vada b'vada mutter. If you have a vada, let's say a mamzer and a mamzeres, right, or in the scene, that's mutter. However, vada b'sfeik, a vada with a suffix, right, or a suffix b'vada, a suffix b'suffix. Two people are unsure, then you can't marry an unsure, because even though both people are unsure, one could be, a mamzer, and the other one, even we didn't know, is not a mamzer. So then you could be having potentially a mamzer marrying a non-mamzer, or vice versa. So therefore, if there's a tzad suffix, then you can't do it because one of them might be kosher. But if they're both known to be mamzer, then they'll be okay. And Veilan has fekas, what is fekas? Shtuki, asufi, vikusi. Right? That is referring to a shtuki, which you saw earlier, an asufi, and even a kusi. Why is that? Something the Gemara explains later on, but Rashi hints it. Just look at Rashi for a second. Kusi beforish, it says ma'is vekayu, because he might have shoyiship some cherev, barishem, they're brother some cherev. Ashur, right over there, and I'm just they converted because of fear, right? Bakula, right? Because and therefore, so because they weren't, I think it says later on, because they weren't so makbid in terms of different marriages, so there might have been mamzeris linked up with the kusim, and therefore the kusim had something mamzeris also going on.
What is it with some chirub? What is that?
Yeah, that was when they converted. They there was a whole plague of lions, and right, they were right. So they were
the northern kingdom.
Right, so they were
He mixed up.
Right.
He brought different people to the land.
Oh,
right. So Zok the Gemara, my kol hasurin lavai b'kal. What does it mean? Those are us with the kal are mutter one another, and then what does Rabbi Yehuda come and argue with? So my culture, so if it's mamzer nesina shtuki nesufi, as I just explained, well, turn back a couple pages and you look at the first Mishnah of our parak. It says that's what it says there, right? Mamzer nesina shtuki v'asufi mutar lavos zebazeh. They're mutar one another. So that doesn't really make sense. That to repeat itself. So and furthermore, Rabbi Yehuda answers. So what case are you? If Rabbi Yehuda says, "Hey, no, well, avada and mamzer cannot go ahead and marry a shtuki," so how many times say? But the Seifa says the third opinion over there is Rabbi Yezer Amir, vada mutter, vada misveikin aser, right? Only vada is mutter, but a vada with a suffix is something is aser. Michlal Rabbi Yehuda like svirle. That Rabbi Yehuda would argue with that and not hold like Rabbi Yezer. So v'chitema Rabbi Yehuda Iser Ager b'mamzeres. So maybe what we're talking about over here is a ger, right? So v'chitema Rabbi Yehuda Iser Ager b'mamzeres, and it says he's telling us that a ger cannot go ahead and mamzeres. Samide ger b'mamzeres katani, but it doesn't say the word ger in the Mishnah. It says kol hasur lavoy b'kahal, right? A ger is not necessarily somebody who's asur lavoy b'kahal, right? A ger, once he can go marry in the kahal. So who is the Mishnah talking about? What's referring to, right? It would make sense if we just say, okay, we're talking about a ger, and a ger can't go ahead and marry a mamzer. But you can't, how do you explain kol hasur lavoy b'kahal is referring to a ger?
When previously we learned that ger was mutter to
A mamzeres. We had machlokas over there, right? Right. That was the whole thing before, whether ger is considered to be part of the kahal or not. But in terms of the ger himself, right? So is he allowed to go ahead, and is he also prohibited to marry a mamzer or not? And maybe that's the machlokas of this Mishnah, right? So the Tana Kama says kol shel lavoy b'kahal mutar lavoy zev zeh. A ger could marry a mamzeres, right? And Rabbi Yehuda says, Eiser, he says a ger cannot marry a mamzeres, right? So that would work out nicely. The only problem is, our Mishnah doesn't say ger is mutter lavoy zebazeh. We says kol hasur lavoy b'kal. So how can we teach kol hasur lavoy b'kal to be a ger? So let's see if the storm giving a hint as to what the Gemara is, what angles the Gemara at. So Rabbi Yehuda Eiser a ger b'mamzeres, maybe ger b'mamzeres katani. So kol hasur lavoy b'kahal katani. It says kol hasur lavoy b'kahal. So now the Gemara is going to tap this a couple of times. So Rabbi Yehuda, how does it mean ger? Hachi kamar. This is what it means to say. Hachi kamar kol hasur lavoy b'kahal kahuna. Maybe it means whoever's hasur lavoy b'kahal kahuna. And who is that? That's Giyaris. That would be referring to a Giyaris, even a Giyaris, even less than one day, less than 3 years, right? In other words, if there's a machlekes that normally a Kohen cannot go ahead and marry a zona, right? He can't marry a zona, and therefore, so a woman who is converted is assumed to be a zona. So therefore, by the age of 3, right, is when a woman is subject to bia, right? If you have bia before the age of 3, right, then it's not really considered to be anything, right? So therefore, only after 3, they should make a zona. So what about a convert under the age of 3? So there's a machlokes over there. So over here, we're saying that referring to a giyaris, even less than 3, which is asur lavoy b'kahal, right? Who says should be mutter. And in this type of ger, right, mutar lavoy zev zeh. In other words, this type of ger would be able to go ahead and marry. So Gemara says, why don't you just establish the case of even one who's over 3, who's asur l'kahal? If that's the case, you can sort of argue on it. So there's because the reason why she is asur is only because she's 3. But if she was less than 3, then she would be mutter to enter into the kahal, kahuna, and asur lavoy zebazeh, and then she'd be asur to be with all the others. So Gemara says, but that's not true. The mutaris lavoy kahal, kahuna, mutaris lavoy zebazeh. Right, that such a person, according to B'Shem Merichai, is mutter, right, lavoy b'kahal. It is also mutter to be lavoy zebazeh. So that therefore that can't fit it. So it has to be somebody who is younger. So the Gemara says, wait, and is this indeed a rule across the board? The chol asur lavoy b'kahal kahuna, whoever can't go ahead and marry into the kahal kahuna is allowed to go ahead and marry the mamzerim. Mutter lavoy zebazeh, b'hari almana, ugrusha, v'chalala, v'zayna. Right, that all these women, right, a widow, divorcee, that they can't go ahead and marry kalkuna, right? At least I'm not with a kohen gadol. The asur love, right? And nevertheless, they're still asur to go ahead and marry a mamzer. So furthermore, mutter asur. But if you're telling me that they are mutter, right, to a kohen, then they'd be asur to go ahead and marry zebazeh. Are ger? But what a ger, right? This was Eddie's question before, right? The shemutter b'kohanis, that a ger mutter b'kohanis, right? A convert is able to go ahead and marry a bas kohen, right? Umutter mamzeres, and he's also able to go ahead and marry mamzeres. So it's not one or the other, right? The kahuna and mamzeres could go hand in hand. He could actually marry both.
That's not kind of valuable.
No.
Because that's what we said. Yeah, that was the thing. I think it was with Rabbi yesterday. He says actually you can have your cake and eat it too. In other words, you're not. Right, because technically also you're not part of the cow, and the only cow is by mamzer.
A kohen can't marry a giyaris. Cannot.
A cannot, right? But a ger can marry a bas kohen.
Oh yeah.
Right. Now, so Elam Rav Nassan is going to try to give his own interpretation of our Mishnah. Kol shekohen osir lisas bito. When it says kol, what's the lashon of the Mishnah, right? It says kol asurim. What does it mean? Kol asurim. It means like this: kol shekohen osir lisas bito. And who is that? Ger shenasa giyaris, right? Whoever the Kohen is usher to go ahead and marry their daughter. And who would that be? That would be if a ger married a giyaris. If a ger married a giyaris and had a child, special luck, then they cannot go ahead and marry a Kohen. Now, so a ger married a giyaris and they had a child. So and only afterwards they had a child, not the child didn't come, but they had the child. Then the child can marry a Kohen. So that is usher to a Kohen, right? Therefore, be mutter that nevertheless a ger, right, who we're talking about, even though that the Kohen wouldn't be able to marry his potential child if he married a giyaris, nevertheless a ger would be able to go ahead and marry mamzeres. So Gemara says, you klohu. The kol shekohen also says bito mutar lavoy zebazeh harei cholol. What about a cholol? Shenasa bas Yisrael cholol who marries a bas Yisrael. Their child will be a right cholola. The Kohen also lisa bito that a Kohen would not be able to go ahead and marry his daughter, right? But she's still his daughter would still be permitted to go ahead and marry a mamzer. So the one says no, like Kasha. Could I do Stai ben Yehuda? It would be like a Stai ben Yehuda. So it says, which it says, like Kasha could do Stai ben Yehuda. He says no, be like that. Who holds that actually the daughter of a cholol is mutter to a Kohen. So it says, that's the case. What about a cholol that marries a cholola? The Kohen also, Lisabita, a Kohen would be permitted to marry their child. But cholol cannot go ahead and marry a mamzer. So furthermore, mutter aser, but you say if it's mutter to go ahead, the Kohen is able to go ahead and marry their child, then it'd be also to marry a mamzer. But ger. Shenasa bas Yisrael, but a ger married a bas Yisrael, and Kohen mutter lisas bito, that a Kohen is able to go ahead and marry his daughter. We said a ger is able to go ahead and marry a mamzeres. So Elam Rav Nachman, Amarav Ravua, Hacha, new solution. Hacha,
Child of a ger and mamzeres. What's the status?
The what?
The ger marries a mamzeres, which is allowed.
Ger, the mamzeres. Yeah, right, but there's no, right, but there's no.
Marries a Israel, which is allowed also.
So it goes after the psul.
I'm saying Israel, a Giyaros marries a mamzer.
Giyaros marries.
So it's always.
So now, right.
So why would you want to Giyaros?
No, but he's not prohibited. It's not asur l'vavakal. So I mean, we had the whole question there. How do you go ahead and get rid of mamzeres to marry an eved, and then the child then, and then the female, then they're free, owned by the master. Then you free them. Then that's a potential case of losing your mamzeres. So no, they're actually arguing about something else. What makes a mamzer? Right? What makes a mamzer? So Tanakama saver afilu mamzer me'achayis. Tanakama holds that it's not only something which is chayve Mrs. Basin, such as an Eishasish. In other words, a married woman has a child with somebody else, right? So that child is a mamzer. Why? Because she's prohibited from that person from Mrs. Basin. Not only that, but even from achayso, right? She's not married, but she has a child with her brother. So that Isser is only Isser Kares. It does not carry a Mrs. Basin, right? So nevertheless, the Kares, according to one opinion, so Machlekes, does that union between or having a child between a brother and a sister, does that make a mamzer or not? Nami havi mamzer. Tanakama hold that even a chavi kares such as achayso havi mamzer, and therefore, since that child is a mamzer, right? So therefore, a mamzer is able to go ahead and marry a mamzer. Rabbi Huda saver me'eshes ish havi mamzer. No. Only if it's a Mrs. Basin, such as eshes ish havi mamzer. Me'achayso havi mamzer. But if a brother and sister had a child, that would not be a mamzer. Therefore, that child will not be able to go marry a mamzer of an eshes ish. So this is my kamashma. What do you come and teach me the halachas of mamzeres? Tanina, we actually learn in another brayse. Ezu mamzer. What's a mamzer? Kol shubla yavoy. Right? There's a lav. Rabbi Akiva. Any sort of lav. It says you can't go ahead and marry this person. Even a simple lav of malchus creates a mamzer. Right? That was the most machmer sheet going to Rabbi Akiva. Shemar Timani Aimer Kol shechayvin alav kares b'dei shemayi. Something that carries a kares like a chayso. And halach gedvar the halachas like him. And Rabbi Shuaimer Kol shechayvin alav Mrs. Basin. Anything Mrs. Basin like an eshes ish. So if that's the case, we already know this. So rather, let's reinterpret one last time. What does Mishnah mean? Ella amarava ger amoni moavi ika benai. No, we can say maybe a convert from Ammoni Moabi. Now remember, those are all the men are prohibited, but all the women are permitted. So you can be
There's Amun.
all those people are to marry into the congregation. In other words, a Ger, Ammoni, and Moabi cannot go ahead and marry into the congregation. But my Nihu, Ger, Ammoni, and Moabi. Those are Mutar Labois Zemazed. Those are able to go ahead, and a Ger, Ammoni, and Moabi are able to go ahead and marry a Mamzer. Ihachi, my Rabbi Huda Iser. If that's the case, why does Rabbi Huda say they cannot? Even though normally Rabbi Huda says a ger cannot marry a mamzeres, sahani mili ger deroy. That's only a ger who's allowed to go ahead and marry into the congregation. Of a ger amoni moabi, but a ger amoni moabi, they ain't deroy levabikal. Since they can't go ahead and marry to the congregation, then we do not go ahead and allow them to go ahead and. But all right, since they can't marry into the kahal, therefore we allow them to go ahead and marry a mamzer. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to really marry anybody. Fine. Tana Rabbana will start the new sugya, just because tomorrow looks like a little bit longer than today, so we'll start it. So Tana Rabbana ben Teisha Shanim Hayayim Echad, a child, right? So we talked about earlier that a girl is considered to have bia once by the age of 3. When it comes to a male, that is from the age of 9. Or 9 in the day. Right? So Ben Teisha Shanim Hayayim Echad Ger Ammoni, and he's a convert from Ammoni, Moabi, or Mitzri Vadaimi. Kusi, Venasin, Chalal, Mamzer, all these people, Shabo al Kohenes, Val Levia, Val Basashel, and he had relations with the Kohenes, Levia, Val Basashel, Paslua. He has puzzled her that she's no longer able to go ahead and marry a Kohen, and if she's married to a Kohen, she wouldn't be able to go ahead and eat Truma. It passes her. That's what it means, it passes her, right? She can't eat Truma anymore. She's not related to a Kohen. Rabbi Yosi Aimer, no, it's not just to be with him. Kol Shazara Paisel. If she would have a child with this person, right, and the child would be pasul, then pasul, then it passes her. But if her child would not be pasul, ain't a pasul, does that pasul her? So I have to understand what this machlokes is. All right, we didn't get into it yet. Now, Rav Shimon Gamliel is a third sheet that says no. If you're allowed to go ahead and marry the child, right, as opposed to the child being puzzled. If you're allowed to go ahead and we have to once again understand. So you can go ahead and marry the widow, the mother. In other words, she's not puzzled. You can't go ahead and marry the daughter. You can't go ahead and marry the Amar. So my ika ben Tanakama ubein Rabbi Yosi. So what is it between Tanakama and Rabbi Yosi? Right. So Tanakama said, "Bia with any of these people, puzzle her." And Rabbi Yosi says, no, only if the vlad is possible. So what's enough? So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mitzri Sheni Ikabenayu, right? Mitzri Sheni. Then normally all these others possible are kid, but a Mitzri Sheni Ikabenayu, Shneim Lo Amdua Elami Kohen Gadol Almana, right? They actually only learn from Kohen Gadol and Almana. The Tanakama Saber Ki Kohen Gadol like a Kohen Gadol Be'almana. Right, Kohen Gadol should be Almana. Ma Kohen Gadol Be'almana should be also Be'avera. Since the Bia is Be'avera, so apostles her, right? Therefore, she's now considered to be she's puzzled, right? So Akol should be also be avera. So to any time the bia is aser, then paisel then apostles her. So therefore, the bia would be aser with the mitzri sheni. Rabbi Yosi said, "Ki kohen gadol be'almana, ma kohen gadol be'almana shezara paisel." That her zera is that the child will be puzzled. So afkol shizar pasul. So too that if any of their child will be pasul, that will be pasul. Now fuke that will exclude mitzvah sheni, shein zara pasul, because mitzvah sheni, the child is a dor shlishi, and therefore a dor shlishi is mutter lavai bikal. So therefore, since the child with a mitzvah sheni would be permitted, right? So therefore, the bia with a mitzvah sheni does not pasul her minakuna, right? So the mitzvah sheni shein zara pasul. Demakra, right? Because it says over there. Right, the children from the third generation, those who enter into the congregation.
That was Amon, wasn't it?
Because she, right, well, yeah, right, because he was a convert. He was a convert. Mitzvah Sheni was a convert, and he had relations with her.
The second.
So he's Jewish, right? But he's just Mitzvah Sheni. Right, so there are times even when a person's a convert, he's a Jew, but you can't marry them because they're, let's say, first generation mitzvah, right? So he has to marry a mitzvah until the third generation, and then the third generation is good. All right, we'll stop here.
Shkaya, Rabbi.
Shkaya, good to see you, Mayor. Have
Yeah,
a wonderful
you're-
day.
You too.
I don't know.
I'm almost a third.